Okay, so we have the bodice right here that I have pressed. I've turned it and I've pressed it, and this is what it looks like. I want to give you a couple of little tips about pressing. The first thing that you want to do is have a really good iron. I have an iron that is nice and heavy. I have it that it doesn't have any coating on the bottom because I like a nice clean chrome bottom with lots of vent holes in the top part, because I quite often sew by pressing this button, which is the steam button, and I like to go over things every time I stitch, because the iron and the steam softens the seam that you've done, and so it isn't stiff or hard to work with. So what I've done is, let's give it a try and see what it looks like on the little dolly. And you'll see, I'm sorry that I have to just use one hand, you'll see that the front part goes like this, and then this becomes the back. So that becomes the back of the doll, like that. And then as we continue, we'll make the little sleeves, and you'll see how that works very nicely. You're making about a 1/4 inch seam every time you do a hand sewing here. Okay, so now the next step, you'll see that what I have done is I have folded these pieces to each other using about a 1/4 inch little fold, and I've sewn it. I've pressed it. I haven't sewn it yet. I'm so sorry about that. Okay, so I've done that. Now this is going to become the edge of the sleeve. So my next step on this will be to sew with my number 10 needle. I'm going to sew right along here, and I'm going to just pick up a tiny bit from the top and then use my larger stitches on the back. This piece of fabric is the same front and back, but sometimes it'll be very, very obvious what is the front, what is the right side. You always want to make the smaller stitches on the outside so that they do not show. So I'm not going to be real careful about it, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch right along here and right along here. And then you'll see that we'll get the edges of this here and here when we hand sew the sides and the back bodice. And then we're almost done. This is such a simple thing. I also wanted to show you a couple of tips about the ironing board. I have a grid ironing board up, and I have a studio so that I can keep all my junk up and nobody comes in, and that's very, very handy if you have to set up and put away in your living room or your dining room or your breakfast nook or something. Then you'll have to set up something that's more convenient for you. But I find that it's very convenient for me to always have my ironing board up, because I do almost as much ironing and pressing as I do sewing, if not more. So what I've done is I've gotten one of these tiny little brushes just like this, and I hang it real close to my ironing board, and every now and then I clean it off. I clean off my ironing board just by brushing it down. This is especially helpful if you're using black and white and you don't want the two pieces of fuzz and lint to match each other. So I'm always working on a really nice clean surface. That's just your tip for the day, and we're going to come back and continue in just a second. Thanks a lot.